So how much has changed about Wonders since the game started? And I'm not talking about the release at Kickstarter, I'm talking about playtesting. And I know I said that I was going to make a video about the conversation about Kingdom. Um, and we are going to talk about that a little bit, but it wasn't enough for a full video, so I decided to do a deep dive and talk about some of the things that have changed for Wonders since the game very began. And so one of those first things is that discussion about Kingdom. And if you are not familiar, a couple of days ago, maybe last week sometime, Ramel made a post in Discord. And he said, basically, Tensman and I have been talking about Kingdom. When they originally designing Kingdom, they designed it to Kingdom only counts lands of the same type. If Kingdom is on a Petrian card, then it only counts Petrian lands towards Kingdom. Thalwyn cards only count Thalwyn cards, so on and so forth. And he was wondering how people thought that would change their deck building if that rule hadn't been changed. And so brought on a very long discussion about whether some of the auto-includes land would be auto-includes, some of them wouldn't. The big one that wouldn't be, the consensus seemed to be Clear Sky Eerie. And you probably wouldn't run just two Ethereal Groves to copy things like Market or Indra's anymore, because you'd need multiple Petrian lands to activate those Kingdom abilities. But I thought it was really interesting because I was thinking back about, like, what other changes do I remember coming to the game? As, you know, we were playing with the very first print and play decks that didn't even have any pictures on them. Also, I have a puppy asleep in my lap, so you may hear her huffing. I'm at my parents' house, and Henri has decided that today is the day to be in my lap. And anyway, Kingdom was a change. One of the other changes was harvesting. It used to be that when you harvested a land, you would sacrifice it. You didn't tap it, you just troop straight from the battlefield into the graveyard. And you didn't have that land anymore, so to harvest it and gain the action, you lost the ability to have that land serve as your link for Attuned, or to serve as your whatever link. I'm really glad that change got made. I remember it made things very different and, in my opinion, easier and more enjoyable for the game. But that was one of the big ones that I remember coming across in playtesting, where that, like, really changed the way that playing the game worked. And when I say playtesting, I don't mean like the special playtesting group. I'm talking about, like, I got access to a lot of the print and play decks off the website, or being sent them, or just going to one of the first playtest events that there was at a local card store in Columbia. But I just want to be clear that I'm not like a playtester like they're using to playtest, like they've been using to playtest Call of the Stones and probably the next set. This was just playing the game pre-Kickstarter. Another cool thing, there used to be a different name for Deathstrike. If we look in, here's the Blockpack's Git book, changelog. There's also a bunch of the old terms, but if we look at the changelog, Deathstrike used to be called Deadly, and it did not used to kill on tied battles. I don't remember the not killing on tied battles, but I might have just been playing with that the wrong way from the beginning. But I think that's a really cool and interesting change. I like Deathstrike better. In a lot of ways, it evokes similar things from other card games, and it helps you remember it better. There also used to be, so there used to be another type of card. Gotta remember where it is in here. Wonders cards. There used to be 5 hierarchies of cards: wonders, lands, weapons, items, and spells. Currently we have wonders, lands, items, and spells. And weapons just were equipment, and they just had, like, it didn't functionally work any different other than you couldn't search out an equipment. If you were searching for an item, you had to search for a weapon. But functionally, they didn't work any differently for the game. And I think that's a really interesting... I like the change. It's more in line with things I'm familiar with. That doesn't mean doing things like other games is the right way, but I think it makes it easier to search out specific things. In some decks, you're going to have a lot of items, and a lot of them might be equipments. In other decks, even though you have a lot of items, they might not be equipments. Couple of other name changes that have occurred since the beginning of the game. The Abyss used to be called the Boneyard. I still accidentally call it the Graveyard because that's what I'm used to calling it in a lot of other games. But the Abyss used to be called the Boneyard, I think. And the Abyss, I think, was what you went into for banishment or the Void. There's a lot of fun lore there. There's an ability called Manifesting. We'll come back to one of those things that you just saw. Manifest, which to me reads exactly like Seek, and to my remembrance, Manifesting became Seek. Manifest has a number and a criteria written as Manifest 3 and Insect. This means reveal the top card of your deck until you reveal 3 cards or an insect card. If it's an insect, play it for no cost, then bury the other revealed cards. Works just like Seek, was called something different. The other thing is that this is not going to be the image that I'm looking for. This one is Wonders used to be called Forms. It didn't show it on that card because apparently I don't remember what I'm talking about. But it used to be that you had a primary form, a secondary form, so on and so forth, and a legendary form. I really liked the change to Wonders. It evokes more of the game, the heart, the energy, the vibes of the game to say you're summoning Wonders. It works better. It feels better. And it's just, the flavor is just better. The other big thing is under this tab, winning the game. And it is right here. If all players win or lose at the same time, the game is a draw. So early on, it was possible to tie in Wonders. Now the only way to tie in Wonders is for nobody to claim any stones at all. Because if somebody owns a stone, then there is a way to determine the winner, because it's whoever has the most stones, and if you need a tiebreaker, then you go to the lowest claim stone. So I ran into this playing a game. Realm 1 had never been seized. We were playing a 3-player. I was playing a 3-player game for fun. It was a little bit wonky. So, but it was fun. If you get a chance to play multiplayer, I recommend it. Especially if you've got multiple people in person you enjoy playing with. But I digress. We were playing, and it wasn't that the first realm hadn't been seized. It was that the player 1, I will not say names, player 1 had seized realm 1, but they only controlled realm 1. Player 2 controlled 3 stones, and I controlled 3 stones. So a tie, 3 and 3, couldn't use 1 as the tiebreaker, so the tiebreaker goes to the next lowest realm seized. That's realm 2. So whether or not realm 1 is seized or it's seized, it's not been seized, whatever it is, if the lowest, whatever the lowest seized stone is the tiebreaker, which makes things much easier. And I much prefer the ability to not tie in Wonders. I think it's something that inherently adds value to the game, and it's something that we've talked a lot about in Creators of the First on our Monday video. If you haven't watched that, you should definitely go watch it. I'll stick it up there somewhere. But it's a lot of fun. And I think, not having the ability to tie is good. One of the things that I find is really interesting is we don't have rage in this current set, but we do have rage in the next set. It just doesn't look like what this is on screen. In playtesting, rage was an ability that would, on attack, basically double any temporary bonuses. So think like if you got a +2 on attack, then if your wonder had rage, then it would get +4. And I think it's really interesting to see that keyword show up in playtesting and existence, not be there and in actual existence, and then something different but with the same name show up in Call of the Stones. And I think that's just really interesting. The two biggest changes are the ones that I saved for last. The first is about faith. Faith used to be a much more versatile, I think that's the best word, resource. It used to be that you'd gain a lot of faith and you could use faith to do a bunch of different things. You could take a free action to trade any amount of faith for an equal amount of formless energy. Say you had 30 faith and you needed some extra, you might have 30 faith, but not likely. You would use, say you needed 10 energy, you could, for a free action, boom shakalaka, change faith into formless energy. You could also use faith as a free action to power up a card. You can just say, hey, I'm going to spend 3 faith, boom, +3 to a wonder. So faith used to be, for lack of a better way to put it, a lot more broken. And that is what caused a lot of the decrease in what faith does, because there were a lot of ways that you could win with faith and just use and abuse it as a resource. Talking about a lot of ways to win with faith brings me to my final point. Y'all have heard me talk about these before if you've been paying attention in Discord. I put out an asking for people to help me find some of these and anything I wanted help. Ramel reached out, got me one of these. There's another, but there used to be alternate win cons in Wonders. A card that said, if you do X, then you win the game. I have the image for one of those cards here that Ramel sent me. Zeltona, Voice of the First. We know this card. And it used to say, I don't remember, I can't see the exact wording because my phone is in the recording place, but if you have 100 or more faith, you win the game. And that was a huge deal. In playtesting, people could win with that ability and just pop off with faith and win quite quickly. Cindermaw, I want to say, is the other card that had a ability, and I believe if it attacked unopposed, and y'all, I'm pulling this out of my memory, so if I'm wrong, please correct me. If it attacked unopposed, your opponent got a burn counter. If your opponent had 3 or more burn counters, they lost the game. So you could either win the game or force your opponent to lose the game. The burn counters worked very similar, but not quite, to poison counters in Magic. But to me, looking back at all these changes in the game, I find it really interesting. I love to see the work that the team put in to building the game we all know and love, to all the fun that we enjoy in the game, and see how the things that changed have shaped the things to come, like Rage. Let me know what y'all think of this in the comments. If there's anything that I missed, This is not an exhaustive list, so I'm sure there are plenty of other things. Anything you think is really interesting, just let me know in the comments. And as always, please like, comment, subscribe, and keep being your wonderful selves.